So what the hell is the Pokemon equivalent of I don't have a set in stone number for my stat? That's right, you don't know. Well, what if I said that in spite of all these problems and complications of this concept, that a certain ROM hack competently does this concept? With that ROM hack being hello, I am the Experimenter, and we all know what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, and we all know what Pokemon is. And if you don't know either, why are you watching this video? These two IPs are some of the biggest IPs ever, yet differ drastically from each other. Even focusing on the card game portion of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically, they couldn't be any more different. Where's Roto? Right the heck there, bro, sticks out like a sore thumb. Yu-Gi-Oh!, unlike most card games, has literally no resource system. Whereas Pokemon uses so much energy on one Pokemon for one big attack which they pray to Arceus works and pays off. But what if we didn't focus on the card game? What if, instead of the Pokemon mainline games, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was played like those games? That's the question we shall be answering today. What if Yu-Gi-Oh! Was played like Pokemon? The concept of Pokemon in the mainline games is all about your opponent challenging you to a battle, they throw out their Pokemon, then you throw out yours, and then you proceed to absolutely obliterate their Pokemon to a bloody pulp. And you keep doing this till eventually all your charges of Pokemon-induced manslaughter grants you the title of champion. And Yu-Gi-Oh's concept is simple. Someone challenges you to a duel, and if you lose, you go to hell. But if you win, they go to hell. Sweet deal, right? But for the purpose of this video, we will be mainly focusing on the Pokemon-induced manslaughter that comes with playing the mainline games, and seeing what happens when you replace Pokemon in this situation with Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters. Now that the concept has been fully described and defined, let's talk about the actual practicality of such a situation where Pokemon are replaced by Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters. Imagine some random no-name trainer challenges you to a duel. They send out their monster, the little brown furball Karibo, and then you send out your literal feckin' Egyptian god Slifer the Sky Dragon. That Karibo in the next few seconds will not exist. It's getting turned into a fine red mist with a few brown pieces of fur in it. And that brings up something else that's impractical about Pokemon in itself. You are not using a baseball-sized contraption to capture quite literal gods of elements. One of them is literally the god of death and the other the god of nightmares, and you expect to use a baseball to tame them. That's just ludicrous. Same goes when you replace the Pokemon in that situation with Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters. Yeah, good luck trying to capture a literal demon from hell. Now let's talk about the many possible and many possibly hilarious situations that can come from this concept of Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters replacing Pokemon. Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a wide range of different monsters, going all the way from dragons to dragon maids to just maids. Or on a different note, you can somehow get in a situation where you find yourself with a Sangan facing a dark-armed dragon. Yeah, now Dark Magician has to deal with Ryzeal Detonator. But the thing is, since they'll battle like Pokemon, Dark Magician in that situation actually has a chance to win. Although Ryzeal Detonator and pretty much every other single relevant modern card outclasses him by several plus tiers. And finally, you can be in a situation where you can punt this thing like a football. Now, a part where we really start having some problems is when we talk about the mechanics of Yu-Gi-Oh! Literally being in the system of Pokemon. First, there are 23 different types of Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters. We're not counting Divine Beast and Creator God as types. Way too few to consider those an option. And along with 23 different types, Yu-Gi-Oh! Also has 6 other different attributes. Once again, we're not counting Divine. Giving us a total of 29 different types that you have to consider when transferring the mechanics of Yu-Gi-Oh! Into Pokemon. While Pokemon only has 18 different Pokemon types. Not even enough to hold only Yu-Gi-Oh's types. Now, there are some obvious pairing when this switch comes to pass, like obviously Fairy becomes Fairy, Psychic becomes Psychic, the Dark attribute becomes the Dark type, but then we get into the complexities. What damn Pokemon type is even close to being Beast Warrior? Not aesthetic wise. Although if it was aesthetics, fair argument. but it's not. So good luck finding a Pokemon type for Worm because Dragon Yu-Gi-Oh! Already took Dragon Pokemon. And all that doesn't even get to the concept of how the power scaling would work on the transfer over from Yu-Gi-Oh! To Pokemon. Like, is Karibo truly shit, or can you fuck up Summon Skull? And yes, power scaling is indeed the next and final topic. See, the complicated thing about power scaling in this sense is what stat of a Yu-Gi-Oh card we base this power scaling on. Level may seem like the obvious option, but there are some low-level monsters that were absolutely wicked. An immediate example being Renmaju Daesa, which sounds like some Japanese phrase I shouldn't be saying. And then there's the whole of how some types of Yu-Gi-Oh monsters don't even have levels, but something adjacent to it. Main one being Lynx, where the number of shit I point at dictates my level. And then there's Xyz, which don't have levels, but rather ranks. Which might as well be the same thing, but fuck that, am I right? Okay, if not level, what about attack? No, because there's still cards like Crimson Dragon, the Yubel monsters, are the annoying ass hand traps of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! That will be equivalent to Whitney's melting from hell in Johto. And then there's the complication of a surprising amount of Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters with question mark attack. So let's say we're trying to power scale Eater of Millions. So what the hell is the Pokemon equivalent of I don't have a set in stone number for my stat? That's right, you don't fucking know. Neither do I. But those are the complications that have to be faced when Yu-Gi-Oh! Tries to turn into Pokemon. Well, what if I said that in spite of all these problems and complications of this concept, that a certain ROM hack competently does this concept? With that ROM hack being PokeDuel. A Yu-Gi-Oh! ROM hack that rebrands Pokemon Fire Red into a Yu-Gi-Oh! Extravaganza that I want to play. And if you'd like me to make a video playing that ROM hack, comment what Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster you'd like me to use during the playthrough. You have now reached the end of my statistical report, and I'm now going back to the lab.